Okay, well, I feel so rusty right now, I'm not gonna lie. Well, hello, my book besties. Long time no see. I mean, I guess you've seen me in sit-down videos, but I've not done a vlog in a very, very long time, and some of you have said you've missed my weekly vlogs, which has just made my heart so happy. But when I tell you it has been a whirlwind of a summer, it's been crazy over here. Not all good things either. This is probably the first time I've actually gotten myself ready in over a week because things have just been so hectic. Thankfully, things are getting back to normal now, but I may have mentioned at some point my husband was going on a work trip to Vegas. We actually ended up in the ER a couple days before that work trip. Not only that, but he brought back the big bad C word, sickness, with him from traveling. So we have been dealing with a lot of doctors lately. Unfortunately, my husband is going to need surgery. There's just a whole nother layer of things happening right now, and I have been out of my routine for like 2 weeks now. And as a type 1 person that thrives off routine and rhythm, the past couple weeks have just been chaotic and really messed me up. So I was not planning to vlog this week at all. Didn't even have a thought in my brain to put in the effort. But last night I was like, you know what? I feel like vlogging would actually give me some type of sense of normalcy and help me get back into that routine, and I'm actually kind of in the mood to vlog. It's been a hot minute, but we're here to vlog, not to tell you my whole life story, so apologies for that, but I do really miss weekly vlogging. But this summer is just way too chaotic, and this is the last week of June currently that I'm filming this, and in August I'm gonna start pre-planning for fall content already, meaning I am going to be taking some time away from weekly vlogs in the month of August to pre-plan a lot of that stuff. Anyways, I'm just catching you guys up on my life at this point. Hopefully things are looking up, we're getting back to normal, and this week I get to hang out with you guys, but also some of my best friends, because we are hosting the Pride and Prejudice Readathon that I have been anticipating for so long, and I also have not read very much at all this month, like close to nothing. So this week I really want to just focus on reading again because I miss it, and I'm going to be reading Pride and Prejudice for the very first time. Yes, you did hear that right. I grew up watching the Keira Knightley version and even the version before that I'm not remembering correctly right now, but I know I've seen it, and I love Pride and Prejudice. It's iconic, it's amazing, it's a classic, and this year has been deemed my cozy kind of classic, or just cozy reading in general year. Last year I did read Little Women for the first time for this little Classics Readathon we have going, and absolutely loved it, and just recently I finished The Hobbit. Absolutely fell in love with it like I knew I would because I grew up watching the movies, loved Lord of the Rings, and I just can't wait to add another classic to my favorites list of all time. But we do actually have reading prompts for this Pride and Prejudice readathon. I'm actually going to be focusing on just 3 books this week though. If you want more details on what this readathon is, I'll just leave my previous video in the description below because it's just like a lot to explain and talk about. We're basically going to be hosting like some sort of classics readathon at least once, maybe even twice a year, but this summer we're focusing on Pride and Prejudice. So let me go ahead and tell you about my reading plans for this week. We actually have 2 teams. We have Team Pride and Team Prejudice, but because I'm an overachiever, I am going to be fulfilling prompts for both, which you can actually easily do with Pride and Prejudice itself. But I am going to be using this book for the strong female lead and also the enemies to lovers prompts. I have both of these editions, and I'm not really sure which one I want to read from because this one's tiny and there's not that much text on the page, so I feel like it would read quicker than something that was bigger. But I believe this is the same type of like edition, the same text, so we're gonna be buddy reading or doing a group read with everyone for this. We also have the prompt of a magical element, and I'm gonna be reading Heartstone actually for this one. All's Fair in Love and Dragonfire. This is basically a Pride and Prejudice retelling. At least that's how it's been pitched to me, which sounds perfect for this week, and it's actually really short. It's like 330 pages, and I've heard great things about this. This book came out in 2016. I think it's a duology or a trilogy, but I honestly don't know much about it at all. I just knew that it felt like the perfect book to pick up this week, and it's gotten great reviews. It says, "They say a rider in possession of a good blade must be in want of a monster to slay, and Marybourne Manor has plenty of monsters." So obviously we're gonna have little enemies to lovers, romantasy going on with this, but we love dragons, and it's Pride and Prejudice, so could this be any more perfect? For the rom-com and 5-star prediction prompt, I'm actually going to be reading The Rom-Commers by Catherine Senner. I had the wonderful pleasure of meeting her recently, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't actually read any of her books, but just by hearing her talk about her characters and get emotional and the humor that she puts into her work, I know that this could potentially be a 5-star read. I now own 2 of her other books because I'm just that excited about it. I don't know much about this one. I think they're both script writers, and she comes in and tries to like help rewrite his for whatever reason. Just know she has a lot of heart and emotions written in her book, which is what I love in romance. You guys know I like a good deep romance. I need a little bit more than just like the fluffy smut stuff. So I'm really intrigued by this one. It just came out. I don't know if this is the best place to start with her books. I've been staring at it on my shelves. It's beautiful, and I feel like now is the time to finally read it. Last but not least, we have the prompt of a heartwarming book, and I was actually going to choose a novel love story for that and also the 5-star prediction because Ashley Poston's new book drops this week on Tuesday, but because I pre-ordered it, I'm not getting it till Thursday, and that will probably be my weekend read. But also I kind of want to take my time with that one, and any of these could honestly go for like a heartwarming story, especially Pride and Prejudice or rom-commers. So I think I'm just going to be focusing on these 3 this week unless I change my mind. I'll obviously keep you updated. I feel like these books hopefully will get me out of what I felt like has been a reading slump. I cannot focus on anything physically. I don't even want to listen to anything in diamond paint. Like, I've just been in a weird funk lately, and that's exactly why I'm here vlogging with you guys, because I feel like it will help me get out of that slump and just love reading again. So anyways, that is my plans for reading this week. I have no other plans otherwise. I have like a photo shoot tomorrow night. We are sprinting for the first time tonight, and Friday we have a movie night Saturday night. So I just have a lot of like cozy reading time this week, which is perfect. So that's what we're doing. We're reading and experiencing Pride and Prejudice together for the first time, and I could not be more excited. Hello everyone, happy Friday, or should I say happy Friday to me. I just got back from the bookstore, which is the best way to kick off the weekend. I will say my reading has been very much slacking this week. I did finish one book, but we are going to go hard on the reading this weekend. Kendall and I met up at Panera and we're planning to read for a couple hours or whatever there after getting some lunch. And the music was so blaringly loud. We both even put like noise canceling headphones in and it was not working. So we decided to just go ahead and go to Barnes & Noble, shop around, and then we have reading sprints tonight. So I have reading sprints in an hour, but I thought I would show you guys what I got at Barnes, and I was very good. I got one book, and any books basically that I buy from here on out or here until September or October, I'm only purchasing fallish books because I just want to do a really fun big fall book haul. Not necessarily huge because I am being picky with what I purchase, but I did find a book that I think was an Aardvark pick recently, and it's been getting a lot of really good reviews, and I feel like there's not enough fall romance books out there, but this one called Happy Medium by Sarah Adler is one that I've been anticipating for a while. A clever con artist must convince a skeptical, sexy farmer of his property's resident real-life ghost if she's to save them all from a fate worse than death. Fake spirit medium Gretchen Acorn. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Gretchen Acorn is happy to help with her best read wealthiest client hires her to investigate the unexplained phenomena preventing the sale of her bridge partner's struggling goat farm. Gretchen may be a fraud, but she'd like to think she's a beneficent one. So if cleansing the property will help a nice old man finally retire and put some much needed cash in her pockets at the same time, who's she to say no? This is just like subtle ghost vibes. We have a baby goat and then the ghost is back here, and I love that this is kind of set on a farm. I don't know if it necessarily takes place during the fall season, but personally I feel like this will be great for fall, so I guess you could say I bought my first fall book today. And a book that I was hoping to squeeze into my TBR this week, but I just don't think it's gonna happen. I think I'm actually going to read this right after the readathon and just really take my time with it. That is A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. I'm so excited. I never pre-order books, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it to Barnes & Noble the day this came out, so of course I had to pre-order it. And of course silly Amazon sent it bent in a bag with another item I purchased. Thankfully it was not the body wash because that also spilled in another box, so thankfully it wasn't as bad as it could have been. But isn't this just stunning? I love how bright and beautiful her books are. I don't think I'm going to end up reading this week, sadly, but I did just want to give you guys a mini book haul, let you know about my most recent purchases, and I will be reading these very soon. I feel like this is going to be the perfect like transitional September book. But the first book that I read and blazed through, and honestly wish I hadn't because I really didn't want this to end, is The Rom-Commers by Catherine Senner. Before I say anything at all, I'm going to insert a clip of me here last night finishing this book. I'm not even finished and I can't do it. I only have like 20 pages left. I was not expecting this. It's been a long time since I've cried. I don't think I ever cried this much in Abby Jimenez. Like, yeah, I can't. I have not cried harder at anything else I've read this year, and I think it's safe to say this is going to be 100 stars out of 10. I am fully in love with Catherine Senner now. I even went and bought Hello Stranger before I had even like started this because my friend Elizabeth read this, finished it, and was like, yeah, This is like so good. I found a new favorite romance author and I 1000% agree with her. It was so fun to go to her reading event at our local library recently and hear her talk about this book, because there was so many little tidbits in here that she talked about were her own life experiences in that whole like author event. We have like birthday biscuit donuts and line dancing and just all sorts of little tiny tidbits of sentimental things for her that she sprinkled throughout this book that you wouldn't really get otherwise. So I feel like I have such a connection to her as a human now, and I love that she has this whole spiel at the end where she talks about how important romance books are, because I feel like a lot of people just make fun of romance readers, like, oh, that's not really like a real book, or oh, you're not really reading. But she fights so hard for romance books and talks about how it really explores humanity and how deep and complicated love can be, and I just love that about her so incredibly much. Going back to what I just said about little details, I don't know if anyone else knows this, but these little leaves, these monstera leaves on the end pages, was actually supposed to be on Emma's dress, but because it was already too distracting from the title, she put it on the end pages of the book. Like little things like that that I feel like you don't get from reading a book, but you get from going to an author event. Like that part was just so fun. But besides all of that, I'm so glad I picked this up when I did, because there is Charlie's house where he has a pool, so there's swimming and there's just summer vibes that just enhanced like the experience, especially with how hot it is here right now. This book, I was convinced I was going to give it a 4-star until right around the 70 pages left or 60 pages left of this book that I had. There's one specific instance, one specific statement or line between the two sisters in this book that made it a 5-star for me. Like I could not keep it together, and even throughout the whole book I was like, okay, like this book's great, but I want more of Charlie. Let me tell you, by the end, completely sold on Charlie. There was just so much depth and humor and laugh out loud moments to this that I feel like she's right in between, like if I had to compare, she's between like Abby Jimenez and Emily Henry. Like all of her books are PG or more like PG-13, but I feel like she's right in that middle of that sweet spot between the two of them. But she could easily top Emily Henry for me at this point, because this was just, it was so incredible. This is going in my top favorites of the year. I could go on and on and on. This was totally unexpected, and I was not even planning to go to her author event because I've never read any of her books, but let that be a sign. Go to the author event, meet the author, and it will probably make your experience reading so much better. And of course, I'm not very far in the actual book that I'm basing this video off of. I'm just praying I can get through it this weekend, because I'm not necessarily hating it, but I can already tell I liked Little Women a little bit better. I feel like this book doesn't really have any plot. It's just kind of like gossiping and banter and romance and kind of like small town feels, which is great. But I think what's really gonna help me is if I go watch the movie, and then I feel like when I listen, it will definitely play out in my head a little bit better, and I'll be able to go through or get through the book a little bit faster. But I also did start Heartstone while we were at Panera, and I only read 5 pages, guys, maybe 6. So I'm gonna restart this book, but the first chapter was absolutely killing me. The first chapter is called An Inconvenience of Hobgoblins, and I already love the humor we're getting from this goblin, and I'm just excited to learn more about this world. I'm gonna be reading a ton of this on sprints tonight. Hopefully I will finish this one tomorrow and be able to give you guys some more thoughts as I go. I don't know why this isn't more popular, honestly. I feel like more people would love a Pride and Prejudice retelling, but with dragons. Not a great start to the readathon considering it's already Friday, but at least I finished one book, so that's good. But yeah, I have to go jump on sprints, and I will catch you guys later. know how I said at the beginning of this video, my husband got COVID? Well, guess who caught it? This girl. I did. I was sick all last week. If you could still hear it in my voice, I definitely feel very nasally, and if I talk too long, my head starts hurting. But I wasn't gonna do this whole video and then just like not do the outro and not put it out because you guys said you missed my weekly vlogs, but we have definitely skipped like a week between finishing these books and then getting sick, and then now we're here. So the day you see this video is also the day I'm wrapping up this video, physically filming this. So not that you needed to know that, but yeah, last week was awful. I have been sick like that before, I think in 2021 or 2022, but this strain was way worse. And I am still feeling it. I get little spurts of energy, like right now, and then I completely crash a couple hours later. All of that to say, we are here to do a wrap up of these two books because yes, I did end up finishing them, but this one I just finished like a couple days ago because it's actually quite big to get through, and I do have some thoughts. It's definitely not going to be my favorite classic of all time, which is a plot twist I wasn't expecting. But let's just go ahead and talk about Heartstone first, because this is the epitome of Pride and Prejudice with dragons. I actually am kind of glad that I read these close together because everything that happened in this book, like all the pivotal points, the letter writing, even some of the language or the lines were taken like word for word in Heartstone. So if you are a die-hard Pride and Prejudice fan, like you definitely need to check this one out, especially because I felt like this was a very beginner fantasy book. I did end up rating it 3.5 stars. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying this, I just felt like it was very basic in comparison to other fantasy books that I've read before. This is a debut and it was written like in 2016, so again, or 2013 maybe? I don't know, but it is a little bit older, so that could also be why. Especially because I feel like fantasy in general has just evolved so much, even in the past like 3 or 4 years. The things that I really loved about this book, I only have great things to say about this book. So if you are wondering if you want to pick this up or not, it's a great book. I loved it. It very much read like a cozy romantasy with dragons, and it also reminded me of Fourth Wing because all of these riders, which Darcy in this book is like a dragon rider, which swoon, we love that, but this also reminded me so much of Fourth Wing because of the talking dragons. So that was super cool. That was something I was not expecting. I don't know why, but the talking dragons and even the other creatures in this book were very classic, kind of fairy tale, old style, like fantasy language. I don't even really know how to describe it, but this was like a classic fantasy book. Now, would I pick up the rest of this series? Probably not, because I feel like this wrapped up so nicely in and of itself. I believe it does end off where Pride and Prejudice ends off, so I don't feel the need to continue on, but maybe someday I will. I don't think I'll purchase the rest of the books, but it was still a really fun series. I just feel like it wrapped up so well, and I have so many other books to get to that at this point in time I probably won't continue, but I can definitely see why you would because it's very bingeable writing. Something that I thought was really funny, there is a worm, like a giant worm that's kind of like a creature that's like the villain in this book, and it reminded me of Dune and also Akatar because of, you know, you only hear about a giant freaking worm in those two things, and there was just a bunch of different creatures where I liked it, but also I had a hard time grasping what the world was really about because this definitely felt more character driven. It was just a weird mix of things where I really could not picture the world, and I think that's why I had like a lower rating of this book or knocked it down a point, because I couldn't quite picture everything the author was trying to describe to me. But what was really funny to me, and I also felt like was kind of cheesy, is all of the characters in this book had a weird spin on their name of the character names in Pride and Prejudice. Like Elizabeth is the main character in this book whose name is Eliza Bentain. Darcy is Dared. Lydia is Leda, Mary is Mari, Gwen is the oldest sister whose name I'm blanking on for some reason. The one that married Mr. Collins, but his name was like Curd something, and they all made fun of him in this book just because of his name. But they also did such a great job of matching the personality like Mr. Collins to Mr. Curd, whatever his name was in this book. Like, the personalities were right on point. So again, if you are a die-hard Pride and Prejudice fan, I think you're really gonna laugh out loud at this one and really enjoy just the characters in general. But that leads me to talk about Pride and Prejudice, because as you can tell probably from the way I'm talking, I don't think I'm gonna rate this book 5 stars. Hear me out, I am not a classics girl, okay? I'm not a classics girl. I just kept comparing this book to Little Women that I loved so incredibly much last year. So I think that was my biggest problem, and also I was sick, so like kind of in a reading slump. I don't know, I just needed something engaging. Do I feel like I needed to read this to get the full like Pride and Prejudice swoony effect of Elizabeth and Darcy? Not really, because I'm not gonna lie, every single pivotal point in this book is in the movie. There is a lot of fluff in this. It is 460 pages, and I don't feel like I was missing out on any moments in here by like not reading the book. But the biggest thing that I really enjoyed about this book is in the movie you kind of see Mr. Darcy pursuing Elizabeth, and Elizabeth feels like she's the one being sought after, she's unsure. But in this book, from the very beginning, Elizabeth is very sure. We basically follow her point of view for most of the book, and she knows what she wants. And yes, she does kind of think he's proud or prideful, but even from the very beginning, she's like totally sucked into him and is kind of pursuing him. Versus the movie, it's kind of the other way around, so that kind of surprised me. The biggest thing for me with this book is I feel like it is a lot of banter, it's a lot of gossip, and honestly, there's not a whole lot of plot. Like, yes, we have Elizabeth and her sisters who are going off and getting married, and there's all this gossip and drama, but there's not a whole lot of plot. I feel like Little Women had a little bit of a drive for the story itself, even though it was longer than this one. I just feel like it had a little bit more going for it, and the humor was so much better. And again, I don't want to sit here and compare it, but I will say I was a little bit bored. And as you can tell, I started to tab a lot of the quotes, a lot of the funny things or the moments that I loved, and then the second half, I felt like there was nothing that really stuck out to me. But what I absolutely loved in this book is we got so many letters between the characters, and you guys know I love mixed media. I love Divine Rivals. All of that to say, I think I'm a little bit biased towards the movie because that's what I grew up watching, but I feel like now I could say I've read it and I really did enjoy it. I think it was just my mood. Honestly, I feel like it was dragging on. I kind of had to listen to it in little chunks at a time because the writing is a little bit more difficult to understand, but if you have the audio book with Rosamund Pike, who was Jane in the movie, I feel like that's what carried me through this whole book. The way she just drew out the characters so well, especially Mr. and Mrs. Bennet, they were just hilarious. But yeah, I feel like the movie just has so much more humor to it, and this was a little bit more dry than I was expecting. But I still feel like it's a 4-star for me because it's a classic. I can understand why it's a classic, but now I can say I've read it. I'm not gonna go through and read off parts of the book or anything like that. You guys probably have read this by now. But rom-comers was definitely a huge winner. I cannot stop thinking about this book, and I cannot wait to read more books by her. I really did enjoy reading these side by side at the same time. I feel like that's the perfect way to do it because this almost kind of dumbs down what's happening in this book, but like make it fantasy and I'm on board. So I feel like these two, while I did enjoy them, this one was the ultimate winner. And it doesn't really have anything to do with Pride and Prejudice, but I found a new favorite romance author. Well friends, thank you so much for sticking with me through this video. I felt like it was gonna be a very short video that would never see the light of day, but as I started editing, I was like, you know what? I miss talking to you guys. I need to get back into some type of routine, and you guys make me feel so much better. I love chatting in the comments with you. Let me know if you've read Pride and and Prejudice before, or if you participated in the readathon, we definitely have plans to possibly bring it back in maybe fall. We already have some things in the works, and I can't wait to read more classics because I feel like I didn't read a lot of classics as a kid. Thank you so much for just sticking with me and listening to me ramble about life, and I love catching up with you guys. I feel like it's been a whirlwind over here. My uploading schedule is weird, but that's just summer and that's just life. So I love you guys so much. I appreciate you so much, and I will see you in my next video.